Good morning, everybody. Welcome to City Hall, welcome to Council Chambers, and welcome to a meeting of the Los Angeles City Council for today, Tuesday, June 1st, 2004. The City Council meets every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday at 10 a.m. Meetings are open to the public, and we do invite you to join us. For members of the public unable to attend council meetings, we can be viewed live on your cable station, Channel 35. We can also be viewed live via webcast from the city's homepage or heard via council phone. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Cardenas, Garcetti, Gruel, Han, Labange, Little, Miskowski, Parks, Perry, Reyes, Smith, Villaraigosa, Weinstein, Padilla, 10 members present and a quorum, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. The council is officially in session. Before beginning with the matters appearing on today's agenda, let me recognize Mr. Labange for an introduction, and this young man's going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
You betcha. This is Anthony Casillas, and please rise and welcome the Vernon Elementary School, for the only school in the city of Vernon. LA Unified, stand up, children, be recognized. And as per your request, since this is our first meeting day, Anthony Casillas is going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay.
Place your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, in liberty and justice for all.
Good job. Good job. Thank you so much.
Great job, Anthony. Madam Clerk, first order of business, please.
Approval of the minutes.
Ms. Gruel moves and Mr. Zine seconds.
Commendatory resolutions for approval.
Mr. Cardenas moves and Mr. Garcetti seconds.
Mr. President, do you wish to take public comment up at this time?
We'll take public comment after dispensing with consent items.
Okay. First items on the agenda, items noticed for public hearings. Items 1 through 4 are street lighting ordinances, and I believe 12 council members are expected today. Do you wish to hold those on the desk?
Let's hold ordinances on the desk, but before we do that, let us open and close public hearings on items 1 through 4. I do not have requests from members of the public to address the council on these items. Next item, please.
Item number 5 is also a public hearing item. Council is required to make findings of public convenience and necessity, and this is in Council District 2. A motion is required to either grant or deny the application.
Okay. And again, I do not have requests from members of the public to address the council on this item. Colleagues, this is item number 5. I believe on your CLA summary, it was noted as a CD7 item. It's actually in Council District number 2. We do need a motion from the floor on this item. If I don't see a motion, let's hold this on the desk as we await a motion from the floor on item 5. Next item, please.
Next items are items for which public hearings have been held, 6 through 22. Items 6 and 7 are ordinances.
Okay, members 6 through 22 now before us. Public hearings have been held. A motion from the floor would be required to reopen the public hearings. We'll hold 6 and 7 on the desk as we do await 12 members today. Members wishing to call any specials? Mr. Zine?
Councilman Reyes asked that item 17 be continued for 2 weeks.
Members request to continue item 17 for 2 weeks. That would bring us to June 15th.
Thank you.
Without objection. So ordered. Any other specials on items 8 through 22? Mr. Labange.
12, please.
12 call special for Mr. Labange. Any other specials? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, on the balance of the items, please open the roll. Please close the roll and tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
Those are approved. Next items, please.
Next items are items for which public hearings have not been held. Items 22 through 53. 10 votes are required for consideration.
Members, items 23 through 53 now before us, and I have cards on item 32 and item 55. We're not there yet. Item 32 call special for a speaker and also for Mr. Labange. On the balance of the items, I do not have requests from members of the public to address the council. Public hearings are open. Public hearings are closed. Ms. Hahn, Mr. Garcetti, and Mr. Zine.
I'd like to call 33 special, please.
33, call special by Ms. Hahn. Mr. Garcetti. 31 by Mr. Garcetti. Mr. Zine.
49, please.
49 by Mr. Zine. Other specials, members? Items 23 through 53. We'll hold 23 on the desk since it is an ordinance. On the balance of the items, Madam Clerk, please open the roll. Please close the roll and tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
Those are approved.
Mr. President, at the request of Councilmember Sikowski, 48 forthwith.
Forthwith on 48, please. Next item, please.
Next item, Mr. President, is the closed session item, item number 44. Do you wish to hold that on the desk?
Item 54 is a closed session matter, along with 57 and 58. All closed session items are held on the desk. Mr. Weiss?
Mr. President, I'd like to request that 15 and 16 go forthwith, please.
Forthwith on 15
Mr. President.
and 16, please.
Number 11, forthwith, please.
Forthwith on number 11. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
On the supplemental agenda, items 55 and 56 are items for which public hearings have not been held. 10 votes are required for consideration.
55, please.
55, call special by Mr. Labange, and we also have a speaker card on item 55. That leaves us, colleagues, item 56 before us. Anybody wishing to call item 56 special? Seeing none, let's open the roll on item 56. Close the roll, tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
That is approved. Forthwith, please. And if that brings us to the end of our agenda, let's return now to general public comment, an opportunity for members of the public to address the council on items within our jurisdiction but not appearing on today's agenda. And the council calls forward Ms. Irene Kasmer at this time.
Thank you, Your Honor, council members, all of you honorable people in this whole hall. Irene Kasmer, Museum of Fashion Designers and Creators. I will quickly read the one page here that I brought for you all to know. The Museum of Fashion Designers and Creators, MODAC, the nonprofit agency for the expansion of the fashion industry and growth of the downtown Los Angeles, a vital entity in our #1 industry, which the Los Angeles City Council had demonstrated support to two important motions still in effect. Desires to receive funds from the unappropriated revenue from the federal government supplied to through the House Block grants and administered by the CDD. In order to do so, MODAC requires your signature on this letter to show that you support the application of two separate grants. We already finished them and they are ready for your signature. One of the permanent structure designated in the downtown strategic plan as being housed, the museum and the Hearst Examiner building, and for the MODAC Annex Gallery, 10,000 square feet, promised and agreed upon by the CIN group within the Grant Avenue property that this city has generously provided for development. Both applications state as our purpose to preserve, to record, and to display in a museum setting the past, the present, and the future of the Los Angeles, California, and American fashion design, to create jobs, to retain jobs, to increase the economy into perpetuity. The museum will be a leader in acquainting a new generation, education of industry, and be available resource in the creation of hundreds of jobs, businesses within the fashion industry. On behalf of the entire industry, and as a professional, I believe that after being in downtown for Los Angeles more than 50 years as a manufacturer and designer, as the creator of goodwill, publicity, and massive business, and as a taxpayer, that I personally deserve your respect as founder of this museum, which benefits the entire population in California. Thank you very, very much. I would like you to sign this and support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Have a good day.
This concludes general public comment for today's meeting. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Next item, Mr. President, the ordinance is still being held on the desk, and item number 5 was called special for motion.
Do we have a motion on item number 5 yet?
That item to be continued for 1 day, please.
Okay. Members, without objection, item 5 is continued for 1 day. Next item, please.
Next item, Mr. President, would be item number 12, and that was called special by Councilmember Labange.
Mr. Labange, item 12.
Is there anybody from the staff here on this here? Could you, oh, thank you. Could you just give us a little report? Toyon landfill operated in Griffith Park from like 1955 to 1987, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And it's closed now?
May I introduce myself first?
Sure. Yeah, I apologize. I was trying to expedite your...
Good morning. My name is Kelly Garrios. I work for Bureau of Sanitation. I'm a senior engineer. Just give you a quick report on Toyon Canyon Landfill. That's correct. Toyon Canyon Landfill was open until 1987 and closed in 1987. That's when we ceased accepting refuse at the landfill. Then since then, we prepared the closure plan for the landfill and was scheduled to start the closure in 1992. And at that time, we were expecting to hire a contractor to do the closure for us. But with the closure of Lopez Canyon Landfill in 1996, we were delayed and we prepared the closure plans. We were hoping to do the closure at Toyon. We were instructed by the council with the closure of Lopez Canyon Landfill that no employees will be caused to be laid off from the decision. So with that decision, we decided to do the work ourselves. And that's what delayed the closure at Toyon for about 4 years when we decided to do the closure ourselves. And since then, we've delayed the closure for a reason that we felt that we have some work to do for the Bureau of Sanitation and the city that will save the city money if we do the work ourselves. So we've geared a little bit away from the closure of Toyon, and we've done some work throughout the city, including the construction of the East Valley collection yard for state-of-the-art facility. And also we did the closure at Gaffey landfill, which we converted into another state-of-the-art sport complex, which we are proud of. And finally now we are ready to complete the closure at Toyon, and we're expecting that will take between 2 to 3 years to complete the closure. And that amendment in front of you is for the consultant to do the quality assurance, quality control for the closure.
Thank you. This dump operated from the mid-50s to 1987?
Yes.
You know how many tons of trash was dumped in this canyon?
We estimate about over 1.5 million tons of trash.
So since 1987, which is about 16 years ago, is that right? Or what's my math? This is 2004?
That's
17
correct.
Years ago, almost 17 years ago since it's been dumped, it has been closed. It's not been fully closed. The landscaping has not been returned to the natural zone, but you're preparing that, correct?
That's correct.
Great. And we stood aside there in Toyon Canyon to deal with the issues of Lopez Canyon in the mid-90s.
That's correct.
Correct?
Yes.
Yeah, but you're committed to getting it done, but we were still 2 or 3 years from closure.
That's correct. We are committed now to complete it within 2 to 3 years.
When are you landscaping the benches? The benches, you know, if you come from Eagle Rock,
right,
and you come west on State Route 134 and you look up at Griffith Park, there's like a big scar right here. You see that? Big scar from the dump. And when are you going to landscape that?
Part of the closure process, when we close and cap the slopes, we hydroseed the slope, and then we hydroseed it with vegetation that will look similar to the surrounding area.
And that is this year or next year or when?
That's as we start the closure. Usually we'll hydroseed in November. So we're starting now. If we finish, let's see 3 slopes, we hydroseed the first 3 slopes in November. And as we go this year.
Okay, good. So you're in the process.
Yes.
And lastly, I understand there was great work done at the Gaffey landfill.
Yes.
And it's a sports complex, a wonderful sports complex.
Yes.
Who paid for that sports complex? Sanitation Bureau ultimately paid for it?
It was a partnership with the Department of Rec and Park. What we did the closure and we capped the site, and through Prop K grant, Rec and Park built the site and converted into soccer field.
Soccer field. And when was Gaffey closed?
It was closed in
trash.
2000. Closed in 1967.
67. So they had to wait a long time too.
Yes.
Okay, good. Well, I'm glad that finally got done at Gaffey. I hope the same thing could happen at Toyon Canyon Landfill.
And we're hoping to also.
Kelly, I thank you for your dedication, and I apologize for jumping on it right away.
That's okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Labange. Other members wishing to be heard on this item? Seeing none, let's open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
Item 12 is approved. Next item, please.
Next item, Mr. President, item number 31 was called special by Councilmember Garcetti, and this matter was also referred to the Budget and Finance Committee. It probably should be continued.
Mr. Garcetti.
Can we hold this on the desk, please?
Okay. That would bring us then to item 32, also called special by Mr. Labange.
Members, I just wanted to let you know this is the old North Hollywood police station on Lancashire and Tierra, which is going to be sold to the LA Unified School District for a much-needed elementary school. Why I bring it up and why I call it special is so many of us have been working to try to find more schools, more spaces, and this is a great opportunity. The money for this, though, will go to the Department of Recreation and Parks, because that was the agreement when LAPD North Hollywood Division built the new police station on what was then North Hollywood Parkland at Burbank and the 170 freeway. So this money will then go back in the community to the Los Angeles Department of Recreation and Parks, pending the sale of this property to Los Angeles Unified School District. And it's a win-win situation, joint use. Thank you very much, Mr. President. I ask this to go forthwith, too.
Thank you, Mr. Labange. Other members wishing to be heard? Seeing none. Mr. City Attorney. Let's open the roll. Oh, on item 32, I'm sorry, we do have one card. Ms. Sylvia Lynn Hawkins has submitted cards on items 32 and 55. We'll hear from you on both items. At this time, items 32 and 55, public comment.
Okay, on item number 32, again, my name is Ms. Sylvia Lynn Hawkins. Concerning the police station selling to LA Unified School District, I would say no on that because of the treatment that they're treating the United States of America people. Like myself, that is a genius. I was hired for LA Unified School District, and they fired me the first day of school. And now I come to find out the reason why, because they wanted my Class B license. And they took it overseas and here, some to Laidlaw and some to another district in Torrance. They're illegally bringing kids over here with tinted windows on the school buses. Also, they did damage to my instructor, Mary Crook, teacher, and replaced the whole staff, which they're following every job I have worked, which is Wayne Sylvester Davis and Bishop Andrew C. Turner and Dr. Wanda A. Davis. It has a lot to do with also Roy S. Pettit. I'm very concerned about also the funds and where they have been going for years. Again, I was hired by them in 1987, and they mistreat me and took my license because of who I am. Now on number 55, concerning the gas shortage, I believe there's illegal tanks that has been switched it under. There's oil, gas from under houses and businesses that has been stolen from old Jewish homes and now back overseas. I believe there should be no sales from overseas of any land or country. We are only buying back what has been stolen and placed in Africa, including all planets and moon, gold, jewelry, solid gold. Also from the mountain of Pasadena off the 110 freeway, there has been illegal stealing out of the mountain. This mountain is jet black. And now we are finding solid gold in the mountain. that has been illegal transferred through cargo, through airplanes, and now overseas. These things are true, and they are dealing with churches that is doing it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Excuse me, Councilman Gassetti, could you please explain why you want me to stop?
Okay.
This is true. Can I hear a response, please?
Ma'am, this concludes public comment for these items.
Thank
Thank you for being here today. On item 32, if there's no council members wishing to be heard, let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
That is approved. We've also just conducted public comment on item 55. Unless there's members of the council wishing to be heard, Mr. Labange. Mr. Labange. Mr. Labange.
Hey, Tom.
55, we can dispense with.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to let you know that the MTA board completely supports the governance councils, which this council supports, of regional government, our ability to reach out and listen to the service sectors on needs of the Metropolitan Transit Authority and how to improve bus, rail, and other transit needs. So I just wanted to let you know we took that action last week. This council was strongly in support of that, and I wanted to make note of that so all of us could remember that. Thank you.
Thank you. Unless there's other members wishing to be heard, Madam Clerk, let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
That is approved. Next item, please.
Item number 33 was called special by Councilmember Hahn.
Ms. Hahn. Item 33.
Mr. President, members of the council, I just called this special to highlight a problem that we have in our city. Last year, the city spent more than $10 million to clean up illegal dumping, particularly in alleys. And my community of Watts was one of the hardest hit neighborhoods in the city in terms of people coming late at night, coming from other areas and dumping everything from electronic equipment to construction materials. We've been working with the Watts branch of Acorn for a while now, identifying those alleys and those places in the community that suffer the worst instances of this illegal dumping. So what I'm asking us to do today is if you'll approve transferring about $23,000 to purchase cameras to be installed in 5 alleys that are particularly one of the worst. And we're going to be working with LAPD and the Department of Public Works to monitor and maintain these cameras. And again, this is an opportunity for anybody who's watching Channel 35. Report. If you see anyone, no matter what time of the day, if you can get the license numbers of people who are coming into your neighborhood, in your alleys, and dumping this material, if you can get their license and report it. We also have on the books the ability to give you a $1,000 reward if that information leads to the arrest and prosecution of these illegal dumpers. A lot of people think it's not that serious of a crime. We can just keep cleaning it up. But it really is a symptom of a larger issue, and it's symptomatic of neighborhoods where the appearance is no one cares, no one's paying attention, and then we know other crimes are committed. And again, just to remind everybody, the city spends $10 million a year. Last year, they cleaned away 120,000 cubic yards of this debris. This is a huge problem in the city. I hope these cameras will make a difference. I hope you will support this effort in the community of Watts to finally rid that community of illegal dumping. Thank you.
Mr. Garcetti.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I just wanted to rise to praise Janice Hahn for her leadership in the Watts community and really point out that the use of cameras against vandalism, whether it's graffiti vandalism or dumping, is something that's going to transform, I think, some of the most blighted areas of the city. You see other countries in which, you know, in England, I used to live there, there was 8 million cameras, I think, they have on their main streets. And it's not, to assure the public, it's not that the police use these to then suddenly arrest people. They see them to have eyes in the same way that a police officer being in that alleyway would, and then they have to go investigate and do their normal police work. but it really helps us be able to go after, our district, for instance, we're going to be installing probably about 10 new cameras in some of those hot spots. Some of these cameras are great because they also have motion detectors for when people are vandalizing a given area where there's graffiti. And I just think that we will see in Watts what has already happened in MacArthur Park with Mr. Reyes, that these cameras are a great way for the community to be empowered and to make sure they aren't taken over. And so thank you, Janice, for that leadership there, for being able to push that envelope and really reclaiming neighborhoods, because when these blighted areas rely on just one pair of eyes once a week, they will never be taken back. But when we can have them there 24 hours a day, we really can begin to take back those communities and give them back what they deserve. So congratulations.
Mr. Labange.
Thank you. And I, too, want to compliment all members for this support. Illegal dumping what if people illegally dump in an ocean? What if they went down the end of the Venice Pier and dropped off their debris in the ocean? We'd be horrified. They just do it now in alleys and streets. And this is extremely important to have. And Mr. Garcetti, I like what you talked about cameras, because I thought just recently a camera helped crack the case of the missing cello in Los Feliz when they had that. It was a security camera that did that. We don't want to intrude in cameras in people's lives, but certainly it's very important to have it where there's illegal activity. And Ms. Hahn, this is extremely important to have it because it teaches respect for a neighborhood that people would think of going in there and doing that. At Duran and Little San Fernando Road, did you know there's a Little San Fernando Road up in my district in the North Atwater area, River Glen area? There was a heavy dumping right next to the city of Glendale. People would come in, disrespect Los Angeles. And we arrested 19 people with the use of a camera. And it's very important. And Mr. Garcetti's office was very helpful because they use the vehicles to come up through his district to come up and dump. So this is an important tool that we should see more of. Also, we do have video cameras that all our traffic, big intersections throughout. So, again, and it's interesting, when Mr. Garcetti was speaking, I always speak, so when he speaks, I listen, and he, being a Rhodes Scholar, I thought about that when you talked about the fact that there's cameras and the positive effect, because we're being challenged by civil libertarians all over that we're intruding. I don't want to know what goes on. I just want to protect the streets. I want to protect the streets from the harm that's caused by individuals, people, or illegal dumping. So I just like to see, I want to not only compliment you, Ms. Hahn, but I want to compliment Eric as well for that. Thank you, Mr. President, and do not dump anywhere illegally. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Labange. Other members wishing to be heard on this item? Seeing none, let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
That is approved. Next item, please.
Next item, Mr. President, item number 49 was called special by Councilmember Zine.
Mr. Zine.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to request a one-day continuance on that matter.
Okay,
after
members,
consultation with a variety of people.
Request to continue this item one day. Mr. Fujioka, I know we're coming up on a deadline here for this item to be relevant. One day is okay?
Fine, he says. Thank you.
Any objection? Seeing none, item 49 is continued for one day. Next item, please.
Next item, Mr. President, item number 31 was being held on the desk, and that was called special by Councilmember Garcetti.
Mr. Garcetti, we're ready on 31 yet?
We're just waiting for the chair of Budget and Finance to arrive, and I think it's imminent, so if we can hold it for after closed session.
Okay, we'll do it after closed session, and I believe the balance of the items that are still before us that are not closed session items are simply the ordinances, Madam Clerk, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Well, I don't think we're getting 12 members today, so let's at least proceed with first reading on these ordinances.
Okay. That would be items 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, and 23.
Please open the roll. Please close the roll and tabulate the vote.
Ten ayes.
Okay, those are ordinances and do carry over for a second reading. Next item, please.
Mr. President, do you wish to clear the desk before going into closed session?
Yes, please. Housekeeping.
Council has motions for posting and referral.
Motion shall be posted and referred.
There are excuses on the desk. Councilmember Reyes requests to be excused from today's meeting for personal business that meets council policy.
Mr. Reyes is excused.
And Council President Padilla requests to be excused Wednesday, June 2nd for city business that also meets council policy.
Excuse granted. Oh, let's get the city attorneys back.
What about item 6? That was...
It was an ordinance,
I
first
called
reading.
it special to talk about it.
Was it? We didn't have it. Okay, then let's reconsider it. Look, I apologize. It
That's
was
okay.
on the list of ordinances here.
Hey,
We didn't have it
honestly.
written down that anybody wanted to call specials. So if you want to work on getting the city staff back, Mr. Labange? Want to have somebody chase him down?
They're chasing them. They're chasing them. So we'll get them right now. Thank you.
Okay, anything other than item 6 before going into closed session? Madam Clerk, any more housekeeping?
No, Mr. President, that's it.
Okay, then let's take up item 6. Mr. Labange moves reconsideration. Please open the roll on reconsideration. Please close the roll and tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
That is approved. Item 6 is now back before us. Mr. Labange, you want to press your button? Ms. Hahn, I think you want to be heard on this item as well.
If I could ask the city staff from the city attorney's office and the Ethics Commission join us at the center table. Thank you. Give us a little summary of what's going on, please.
Sure. Deputy City Attorney Renee Stottle, before you is the ordinance that would require lobbyists, registered lobbyists, lobbyist employers and lobbying entities to put on their written communications to neighborhood councils that they are indeed lobbyists and include a little bit other information, including their clients. This ordinance requires that and also requires the lobbying entities to retain records in order to verify that they have done that.
Okay, could you repeat that for me too, because I want to make it real clear so everybody hears it twice.
The ordinance requires lobbying entities, which includes registered lobbyists, lobbying firms, and lobbyist employers, to put on their written communications to neighborhood councils that the communication is being sent by a lobbyist, lobbying employer, lobbying entity, and it also requires that the name of any client be listed on that communication. It applies to any type of written communication.
Good. All right, thank you. And Ms. Stottle, thank you very much.
I have nothing to add, Mr. Labange.
Well, add something. You're with the Ethics Commission. You came all the way downstairs.
Well, to build on what...
Do you think this is important?
I think this will certainly provide an additional set of information for neighborhood council board members and activists in terms of, excuse me, when they're making decisions on particular legislative or policy issues. They'll have an idea if they've received a communication from a lobbying firm, lobbyist entity, or lobbyists specifically, that those individuals prepared that communication for a client, and it's not coming from a citizen or other interested party.
So what it means is if I'm in the 4th District and I want to build a building, and I want to find out who's with the neighborhood council and communicate them, and then I send them a glossy, and I use that as a term, a glossy folder to talk about a new, let's say, high-rise in the area.
Mm-hmm.
It should state on the back that, correct? Is that?
Correct. If you are a lobbyist for
Right.
a client who's doing that development, yes, the communication, if it was a glossy brochure, should have a...
Or anything, a piece of paper, an 8 by 10
could be a
piece
letter.
of paper.
The example
Take
you
glossy off the table, Mr. City Attorney.
Could be letter,
anything.
could be brochure.
Right.
If it's a written communication, it would have to have legibly identified on that communication that the lobbying entity was being paid to send that notice, and which lobbyists were involved in the preparation of that notice.
But we have a situation now where we encourage people to go communicate to our neighborhood councils, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we can see this in the future. This could be something that would be a benefit, so they don't so they get a disclosure on it, because disclosure is what you're all about, right?
Correct.
Is that your highest value, disclosure?
I think it's one of our highest activities.
Your highest value is ethics, you know, and then you could have everything fall into that. I set you up for that, Ian. Okay. But ethics, you know, is so important. So it's ethical. It's ethical for people to go out and try to find and communicate a message to them, but to say what it stated, if they're paid for as a paid advocate, is, I think, real important. Because I think what drove this here was a motion, I believe. Was that correct?
Correct, Councilman.
Yeah. So, and that motion to make sure that people, if they want to communicate, the Ethics Commission has no problem, and I don't think the City Council has any problem with anyone communicating through neighborhood councils, from whatever level, from business, commerce, but at least to have that disclosure on there so they don't feel that it's a official or a position without being disclosed. Great. Good. Okay, well, members, I just wanted to see this happen. I want to ask another question, Ian, of you too. When we have neighborhood councils send out material, do they have a disclosure on there at all? When they send their position out, they have the city seal?
Not to my knowledge, Councilmember. The city attorney may be able to address that more specifically.
Mr. City Attorney, could you address that?
I'm sorry, I was not listening.
On the issue, that's okay. I hope next time you're listening. The issue of city seals on notices from neighborhood councils?
Councilmember Labange.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
In terms of what does neighborhood councils include on their communications, I'm probably not the best person to answer that question either. Probably our Gwen Poindexter is, but I can tell you that there's no requirement that their communications include anything in particular on them, just like with any other city department.
There's no requirement?
Right.
There's no requirement. I think, yeah. Or they're allowed to use it, but there's no requirement.
Sure, if it's city business.
Right. Okay, good. Well, listen, Mr. President, thank you. I just think this is an important message to continue the main mission of ethics for everyone, of trying to have a disclosure so that they know that, so they're aware of it. This came out of an issue we had several months ago where some very smart and obviously well-intended from their point of advocacy group chose to communicate, but without a disclosure, I think it would be better done. And the city attorney agrees.
Sure.
Thank you so much, Mr. President.
Ms. Hahn.
Thank you, members. I actually am for this. I can't believe you didn't use your own phrase, Tom Labange. Information is knowledge is power. And that is exactly, in my opinion, what this is. Information is knowledge is power. And if we want to truly continue to empower our neighborhood councils, this is a piece of information that they need to have when they're evaluating projects, when they're evaluating development issues, when they're really evaluating anything that impacts their neighborhood. They need to know when they read things where it comes from, who sent it, and the possible motive behind that kind of information. So I think this is a good idea. I think neighborhood councils, they've always sort of wanted to be having a powerful voice right here in City Council. They want to be able to sort of be at the ropes of the council chambers without actually having to be down here. And I think this helps them understand before they make their official statement on who's talking to them, who's informing them. Let me ask you a question, though. Explain to me the idea of, besides disclosing that you are an official registered lobbyist, the idea of listing the clients that you might have on that information. Are we requiring them to only include the clients that may pertain to that particular issue, or are we having them list all of their clients?
No.
No, the notation that would occur on whatever communication they make in writing to the neighborhood councils would include the names of the clients that are paying them to make that communication.
Okay.
So it's not their entire client list, it's just the specific client who they're...
let me ask you this. Who is going to monitor this particular ordinance?
The way the ordinance would work is that we will be doing outreach to the lobbying community for this type of notification requirements so that they're aware that when they're making communications to neighborhood councils, this needs to be included. From that point on, it will be on a complaint basis that we will be doing enforcement of lobbying entities, that would be lobbyists, lobbying firms, lobbyist employers who have made that type of communication without such a disclosure.
And what will be the consequence of that action?
The consequences of that action could be both administrative and criminal penalties, so there could be some fines involved.
And you're going to make that clear?
Yes.
And we're going to do, what kind of communication are we going to do with neighborhood councils to sort of let them understand this new ordinance?
We can certainly do outreach to the neighborhood councils through the department and coordinate that with Dunn so that the individuals at the decision-making level of neighborhood councils can communicate that to other activists within those councils, as well as understand that anything that they're receiving that is coming from a lobbying entity should have that type of disclosure on it.
And what about the complaint process?
The complaint process, any type of violation that, say someone receives a communication that they subsequently learn is coming from a lobbying entity that doesn't have the disclosure, they can call into our whistleblower hotline or into the Ethics Commission and lodge a complaint against that specific lobbying entity which they have become aware of has made that communication.
Would they be able to complain directly to the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment?
I would suspect they could make that complaint to the department. The department would then forward it on. I think it would be most effective to have them complain directly to us so that any type of details that the caller is passing on or the complainer is passing on can be directly communicated.
Again, colleagues, I think this is a good ordinance. I think this helps to give our neighborhood councils the information they need to make informed decisions. But again, these ordinances are only, in my opinion, valuable if we do the education outreach, if we empower the neighborhood councils to understand the complaint system, because otherwise we're not going to have the reform and the accountability that I believe we need in this particular area of neighborhood council empowerment. So I would encourage who's ever going to be doing this to really work on the second piece of this, which is the outreach and the full knowledge from neighborhood councils on how they would register a complaint when in fact they find this is not happening.
Absolutely, Councilman.
Mr. Cardenas.
I have a question regarding when a person becomes, what kind of activities then requires a person to register as a lobbyist. For example, if someone were to be speaking to a neighborhood council regarding, say, a project or a matter in the city of Los Angeles, that interaction in and of itself could or would that trigger them having to register as a lobbyist?
We would say that it would, Councilmember.
It would?
Yes.
So, in other words, if somebody comes to visit with a council member or a mayor or what have you, that kind of activity, depending on what threshold or what have you, could trigger them having to register as a lobbyist. So
it would occur in, it would need to occur in combination with them being paid to make that communication, Councilmember. There's a threshold that's set for a calendar quarter and a dollar figure that would need to be also met to have an individual who's making that type of a communication or trying to influence a neighborhood council on a matter be required to register as a lobbyist.
So in other words, if somebody were to address a neighborhood council or members of the board of a neighborhood council, that activity in and of itself, the fact that they're a paid consultant, could trigger just as well, just the same as if they met with another elected official in the city of Los Angeles.
Correct.
So bottom line is you have some people who might not be interacting with council members or the mayor, who might be out there assuming because they're not interacting with the old system of faces, and now there's this new whole group of folks that they may fall into that category unbeknownst to them.
That's possible, Councilmember. I'm certainly, we're certainly available for any type of questions of those who would not necessarily know that they are needing to register. We certainly are available to provide that type of information to neighborhood councils, as well as the outreach that Ms. Hahn mentioned, so that we could have neighborhood councils aware to pass that information on to those who are trying to influence them.
So the bottom line is whatever communication goes out on this new requirement or this default requirement on such individuals is going to be on a passive basis. In other words, they have to inquire themselves. They have to look into it themselves. It's not anything that the Ethics Commission or that department is proactively sending out information or putting things out in the paper saying, hey, look, if you're advocating and being paid for that and you're meeting with neighborhood councils, you need to be aware of the fact that you could be violating an ordinance here in the city of Los Angeles.
I believe we've been advising all along, Councilmember, that if there are individuals who are meeting with neighborhood councils and trying to influence their decision maker, that that type of activity, along with the other thresholds that are in the municipal code in terms of what requires people to register as lobbyists, if at that time we certainly have been notifying individuals that that is the case.
Oh, really? How are you notifying them?
Well, essentially, we've been in discussions with neighborhood councils and so on. We've been letting them know that individuals who are in that situation should be identifying themselves or at least contacting us to do that type of registration.
But wait a minute, you're talking to the person who's the recipient of that activity, not the person who would be fined or be in violation if they didn't register.
That's correct, Councilmember, because at the time that person appears before a neighborhood council, we would not have knowledge of that individual until such time that they appeared.
So once again, according to the individual who would have to register, what you just described is a passive notice. In other words, you're not having direct contact with them about this potential violation or excuse me, not violation, potential of having to register.
Correct, Councilmember, because we are not notified of all the individuals that appear before neighborhood councils to testify on a specific matter or try and influence a matter of municipal legislation.
Okay. The reason why I'm having this dialogue on purpose, hopefully the people out there in Los Angeles who are watching this will start to understand that obviously when people meet with council members or the mayor or their representatives or what have you, they tend to already understand these kinds of rules and things of that nature. But people think that it's much less formal out there with the neighborhood councils, that this formality might not be required. And that's what really concerns me, is you might have some innocent people who really don't mean anything wrong, don't even realize that they're getting involved in this very sophisticated endeavor and could be subject to, what could the potential fines be? Potentially.
The potential fines could be $5,000 per violation.
Per violation.
Or 3 times the amount that is not reported. Most likely it would be in the $5,000 per violation category.
Most likely it would be in the $5,000 category?
Correct, because the 3 times would be the amount of that is not reported. So in that situation, the individual, because they are not registered as a lobbyist when they're doing that communication, or register after they have been doing that communication, have been paid to do that communication. Since we're not talking about an amount of money, most likely it would be $5,000 because of their non-registering.
Now, if the person were to interact with a non-formally recognized neighborhood council, in other words, we have neighborhood councils that are forming, yet they're meeting, they're dealing on these issues, when does that threshold happen that they would have to register?
If they are trying to influence a certified neighborhood council, after the neighborhood council is certified, they would, and the city attorney perhaps could elaborate on this, they would be then considered basically public officials and looking at trying to influence municipal legislation.
So once again, it's not just addressing the body of the council when they're in the meeting, it's actually addressing an official of that council as an individual and or the body as a whole, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Weiss.
Thank you, Thanks, Mr. President. Mr. Cardenas, those are really good questions. I was really paying attention to what you were asking and to the responses that you were giving. I mean, it occurs to me that there really is probably some folks out there who are operating in what they might consider to be a gray area of sort of public relations, right, who are just working on a particular issue in a community, not perhaps in their minds with an eye towards what they consider to be influencing legislation, because they know the organizing work they're doing, putting together brochures, trying to get folks in the community to support Project X or oppose Project Y. they may not view it as lobbying, but if it in any way, it sounds like, intersects with the operations of a neighborhood council, even short of getting on their agenda, I see Ms. Fidel nodding your head up and down. I mean, it could be construed as lobbying. What can you tell me about this, just so when I get questions from neighborhood council members, because they ask me, they're always saying, oh, you know, we got these rules we got to comply with. What would be like the latest and the greatest that you'd want to leave me with today, so I could tell neighborhood councils and people who work in the community how to comply with the rules?
The definition of lobbying activities is very broad, and it can include people who are presumably just doing public relations work. So if they are having any interaction with the neighborhood councils other than simply asking for information, then what they're doing may count as lobbying activities, and then we have to look further as to whether those other thresholds are met to see whether they are required to register.
Is payment of compensation for those sorts of services necessary for those services to be considered lobbying?
Yes, council member. The individual who, in the circumstance that you mentioned, would be doing, say, public relations work, they would be required to receive or become entitled to receive $4,000 in a calendar quarter or more before they would be required to register as a lobbyist in the city of Los Angeles in conjunction with trying to influence municipal legislation and making a direct communication to a city official or employee.
So people can do all the lobbying with a little l that they want as long as they're not compensated. Once they're compensated, is that a triggering fact?
Yes, it is, in that amount in a calendar quarter.
Yeah, it's a several-part test. There has to be a direct contact with the city official. They have to be engaging in lobbying activities, and they have to be compensated $4,000 in a calendar quarter.
There has to be a direct contact with the city official.
And in this case, it would be a neighborhood council official.
Although what we're just discussing is the fact that if one is conducting some sort of organizing efforts in a community with an eye towards influencing a neighborhood council, with an eye towards turning people out to go to a neighborhood council or whatever, that conceivably could be found to be lobbying activity. You wouldn't want to sit here and say yes or no, because you'd want to
look at
so
it.
People should really be careful.
Correct.
Yes, they should, and they should contact the Ethics Commission for advice.
Okay. Well, thank you for answering the other members' questions. It's been a useful discussion. Thank you.
You're welcome, Councilman.
Mr. LaBonge.
Thank you. Can I speak from here, Mr. President? Is that all right? Thank you very much. Real simple, just a couple things. And thank you, Ms. Hahn, for that nice compliment about information is knowledge is power. I got thrown off at the start of this because we were so quick to get back to work, the city attorney and the ethics representative, that I had to catch him at the door. But information is knowledge is power. Now, this is a name, Parker Anderson, Department of Neighborhoods. They could send a blast out to everybody, an email blast. So that's one stop. And then also we're talking about registered lobbyists, which you know who all they are.
Correct.
So that's the other way. We're not talking about if I run Los Feliz Lock and Key and I'm Rudy Kesserman and I'm a business person and I want to talk about my neighborhood, so I talk to the Griffith Park Neighborhood Council. We're not talking about Rudy, but if Rudy hires one of the, how many paid lobbyists are there in the city of Los Angeles?
Currently, there are 100, and I believe as of the middle of May of last month, about 165.
So if I hire any one of those 165, and I'm Rudy, and I say, okay, then it has to have that little tag on the end, correct?
Correct.
So that's simple, right? Information is knowledge is power. Okay, thank you.
Other members wishing to be heard on this item? Seeing none, let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 aye.
Item 6 is approved. And Mr. Zine, I see, is waving at me, moving for reconsideration on the balance of the ordinances that had earlier been voted on first reading. Items 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, and 23. Let's open the roll on reconsideration. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Okay, and let's reopen the roll on the ordinances with 13 members present now. Please close the roll and tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Those ordinances are now approved. Next item, please.
Next item, Mr. President, item number 31 was being held on the desk. I don't know if council is ready for that item yet.
Mr. Garcetti, we ready or after closed session? Mr. Parks is here. Okay. Well,
I'm sorry, and there is a special one on the desk that's been presented by Councilmember Hahn and Councilmember Zine, seconded by Councilmember Labange, and the city attorney will speak to the findings.
Mr. City Attorney.
Thank you, Mr. President. Since the posting of today's agenda, the city was made aware of a motion that will be before the County Board of Supervisors this afternoon regarding the County of Los Angeles' seal. Council must first make findings per Government Code Section 54954.2 before considering the substantive motion.
Members wishing to be heard on the findings? Seeing none, let's open the roll on the findings, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Special one is now before us on the motion itself. Ms. Hahn? Special one.
I'll start this off. I know Councilman Zine was also almost beat me to the punch this morning by introducing this resolution. The County Board of Supervisors will be taking it up on their agenda this afternoon at 2 o'clock on whether or not to remove the tiny cross that is one of the many symbols and icons that are on the county seal of Los Angeles, or to remove it and bend to the pressures of the ACLU, which are demanding that the county remove the cross on the county seal. I certainly have a personal interest in this, as it was my father who designed this county seal. When he became a member of the Board of Supervisors in 1952, the county seal was a bunch of grapes. And he complained that that wasn't representative of the diversity of Los Angeles County. So they challenged him, if he thought he could do better than a bunch of grapes, to design his own seal, which he promptly did. It clearly, again, is among many of the county, the icons that are on the county seal. And it really is representative of the history, of the influence, certainly of what really founded the state of California, and certainly founded the city of Los Angeles, was the influence of the missions. And it's really historical, much more than religious. It finds itself in a corner of the county seal that also is represented by the Hollywood Bowl, 2 stars, which represent the entertainment industry, and a very tiny cross, which is representative of the influence of the founding of the missions in the state of California. Many people also point to the historical fact of that cross, as when you're sitting at the Hollywood Bowl and you look up, you can actually see that cross that is over the John Anson Ford Theater. So it's actually a part of the landscape of Los Angeles County as much as its history. So I'm going to be going to the County Board of Supervisors this afternoon to testify in favor of keeping that historical icon on the county seal. I would love to come with the support of this body to also not try to rewrite the history of the County of Los Angeles. Thank you. And thank you, Councilman Zine, for introducing this.
Mr. Ludlow.
Colleagues, thank you. Thank you for raising this item. I appreciate the fact that both Councilmember Hahn and Councilmember Zine have put this on the agenda, because I think it is important for the city of Los Angeles to debate issues that come up relative to our United States Constitution and what we hold near and dear. I am one that pretty proudly does the Pledge of Allegiance, and pretty proudly held my hand on a Bible when I took the oath of office. Having said that, this is no small item. This is a very significant issue. Anytime the city of LA or the county of Los Angeles or the United States government takes a position that involves the issue of separation of church and state, I caution us to not move so quickly that we perhaps do more damage to the issue than what our interests are by actually taking a position on it. We could hurt ourselves more by just rushing than taking the time that is needed to engage in something. And so when you identify something that is as controversial as this and as near and dear, Councilmember Hahn has obviously a very personal connection to it in the fact that her father worked on the design or may in fact have created the design for the seal. I think we do a greater disservice by rushing into a decision and having a debate here today. I would very much enjoy having a discussion on this, but I think we ought to make sure that we are fully prepared to have that discussion. We ought to ask the city attorney's office to be very much engaged. We ought to ask other agencies that deal with the issue of church and state to be here. I, for one, am a proud Christian raised by a United Methodist minister who believed that that phrase, justice for all, has a lot of value, a lot of merit. And an individual that was raised in a household marching with clergy and grape fields and potato fields as a kid, I hold the concept of religion and our own individual rights very, very near. So I would, colleagues, ask that we not rush into this debate today for fear of disgracing or denigrating both the flag and the religion that each one of us may have been raised in. But more importantly, that we're here representing 250,000 people individually. And their thoughts and values and what they believe we are here to do must be taken into consideration. I believe neighborhood councils ought to be a part of it. Our block clubs ought to be a part of it. I believe there's so many people, tens of thousands of people, that ought to have an opportunity to engage in something as significant as this. So, colleagues, I would very respectfully and humbly ask that we send this to committee. Let's have a very dignified discussion on it, a factual discussion, and one that we can all participate in with a lot of facts and information. But I do want to say, Councilmembers Zine and Hahn, I thank you for raising the issue, because it took a lot of courage to do that, and I think you did the right thing by raising this, because we should talk about it, and I look forward to that conversation. So I'd make a motion that we send this to committee.
Mr. Weiss.
Since Ms. Hahn is seconding that motion, I would call the question.
Okay. We have Mr. Labange and Mr. Zine remaining on the queue. Question has been called. No, Mr. Labange, the question was called appropriately. Let's open the roll on the previous question. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Okay, that does end discussion. We have a motion and a second to send it to committee. I see no objection. This matter is so referred.
And to what committee, Mr. President?
Yeah.
Mr. Ludlow.
Let's see which committee deals with church and state. Let's see if. Let me ask the city
committee
clerk if we have a recommendation. I can see a variety of committees that might take it up. What arts, parks, and icons?
Rules and elections.
Rules committee, rules, or is it want to do rules?
Yeah. Okay. Without objection. Next item, please.
Next item, Mr. President. Item number 31 was called special, and
Mr. Garcetti.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, and thank you to the Chair of Budget and Finance for waiving item 31 out as well. And I wanted to thank two parties today, and I know this affects a number of council districts. Mr. Villaraigosa and Mr. Reyes and I share Glassell Park. Have a bumpy history in the now past between some members of the community and Public Storage Corporation, but we've really turned a new chapter in that history, and I really want to thank Public Storage. I want to thank the members of the Glassell Park community, because today, by approving this, what we're going to be doing is opening up the opportunity for an intergenerational center in Glassell Park, a 30-year lease for $1 a year from Public Storage. It's also making a $30,000 donation to help us furnish it, to be able to have a kitchen, a senior center, as well as a community room, and we'll have a presence of the council office there as well at Public Storage. But it's really something that shows the best of corporate citizenship, it shows the best of community activism, and the way that when parties work together, we can come together and find opportunities that are good for the bottom line of a company, but also good for the bottom line of a community. So I just wanted to rise, and part of the reason I called this special was to thank Public Storage for their corporate citizenship, for their leadership, and also to thank Glassell Park. We haven't had a senior center. We opened up a child care center next to Glassell Park Rec Center. We're now redoing a number of fields and adding an additional one. We have a year-round pool open there, and Glassell Park has really gotten the attention that it deserves. A community that for a long time had been forgotten now is able to do proper planning, be able to mobilize for its own growth. It's forming a new Chamber of Commerce. I know Public Storage is going to be a part of that as well. For the first time in Glassell Park, but it's really bringing together this tapestry to raise the quality of life, reduce crime, and to be able to give people those opportunities, whether they're a senior living out the golden years of their life, or whether they're a young person coming to the rec center and the community room for the first time. We'll also give the neighborhood council a place to have regular meetings, and in essence, it will really become the heart of the community. So I urge everybody's support. I thank Mr. Parks and would move all the recommendations of the report that was before us. Thank you.
Okay. Any further discussion? Seeing none, let's open the roll on item 31, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
That is approved. Anything else before going into closed session? Forthwith on item 31.
No, the desk is clear, Mr. President.
Okay. In conformance with California law, the council will now adjourn into closed session. Sergeants, please clear the chambers. Welcome back into open session. Madam Clerk, next item before us, please.
First item before council is item number 54, and that's settlement in the case of City versus Manchester, Maine, and that's in the amount of $4,050,000.
Please open the roll. Members' roll is open. Please close the roll and tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
That is approved. Forthwith, please.
Next item is item number 57, and that's in the case of Johnny Baltazar versus City of Los Angeles. The amount of the settlement, $850,000.
Please open the roll. Members, the roll is open. Please close the roll and tabulate the vote.
10 ayes, 2 no.
That is approved. Forthwith, please. Next item.
Next item is item number 58, and that's settlement in the case of Judy Matthews et al. Versus City of Los Angeles et al. And the amount of the settlement, $1,250,000.
Please open the roll. Members, the roll is open. Please close the roll and tabulate the vote.
11 ayes, 1 no.
That is approved. Forthwith as well.
And that clears the desk, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, colleagues. It's the end of our agenda today. Do we have any announcements? Any announcements? Mr. Ludlow? If not, do we have adjourning motions today?
Just a quick freebie for all of us. Just congratulate our hometown Lakers and get ready for a great championship series. We're going to bring it back to L.A. So we're all excited about that. Great game. How about a parade? And a parade. Councilman Parks is going to lead the parade.
Well, let's not get ahead of ourselves now. They got some work cut out for them still, either Indiana or Detroit. Other announcements, members? If not, please rise for adjourning motions. Mr. Garcetti.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd ask today, colleagues, that we adjourn in memory of David Dellinger, who passed away May 25th of this year at 1:30 p.m. in Montpelier, Vermont. He passed away after suffering for some time from Alzheimer's disease. He was alumnus of Yale University, wrote the book From Yale to Jail, due to his work at the forefront of movements for peace and social justice. From his refusal to serve in World War II, which resulted in his imprisonment, and his early opposition to the nuclear arms race, to leading anti-war protests at the 1968 Democratic Convention, the famous Chicago conspiracy trial, and beyond, Dave laid the way by a powerful personal example and inspired teaching for generations of activists. He's survived by his wife, Elizabeth. May he rest in peace.
Other tributes? Mr. Parks.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd ask that we adjourn in memory of two individuals that were unfortunately killed in a double homicide in the 8th District. Brian Butler Jr., born in Los Angeles, to Brian Butler Sr. and Margaret Ann Duvall on June 11, 1978. He was their firstborn. He graduated from Gardena High School in 1996. He then had a variety of jobs, including jobs at UPS and LensCrafter. He joined the Navy in 1999, completed his basic training at the Great Lakes Naval Training Center, was stationed aboard the USS Vincennes, and which served as Engineman 3 until March 2003. He later was reassigned to the Navy Security Force in Bahrain, where he earned distinction as a sharpshooter. He's a member of the New Philadelphia AME Church, where he attended with his parental grandparents. He loved music. His favorite sports was basketball. He was 6'5" tall and played on the community league team. He certainly was an encouragement to all of his brothers and sisters about doing well in school. He was unfortunately gunned down on May 24th, along with his good friend Melvin Knowles. They both died of their wounds. Funeral service will be held at 10 a.m. Wednesday, June 2nd, at the West Angeles Church of God in Christ. He's survived by his mother and father, and also a variety of brothers and sisters. Also, Melvin Knowles, born in Compton, California, March 6, 1979. He and Brian were best of friends. He's the youngest of 4 children, graduated from Jordan High School in Long Beach. He sought to be involved in the construction trades by attending Compton Community College in El Camino. He grew up in a Christian home. He was baptized at Bethel Missionary Baptist Church in Los Angeles by Reverend Reginald Pope. Melvin was just recently married, April the 19th, 2004, to his longtime girlfriend. He's a devoted father of 2 sons and shared his parenting responsibility with his mother, who is Star Bell. He enjoyed family outings with friends, also was a championship domino player. At 25, he was also gunned down on May 24th, and while visiting with his friend Brian, who was recently returned from Iraq. Both young men died of their wounds. Funeral services for Melvin will take place Thursday, June 3rd at 11 a.m. at Bethel Baptist Church. He leaves his wife, Nadika, and 2 sons, and his mother and father, and a variety of other relatives. Yeah.
Okay. Other tributes? Mr. Zine.
Thank you, Mr. President. Request we adjourn in memory of Mr. Carl Blum, passed away May 20th. And Carl Blum was born May 1st, 1940 in Camden, New Jersey. He attended Wake Forest University, North Carolina, and moved to California in 1970. Carl Blum was on the Thousand Oaks Planning Commission for 8 years. He was instrumental in the master plan for Thousand Oaks, was a registered professional safety engineer licensed in Los Angeles for 30 years, was a Rotarian and a Paul Harris Fellow. He will be greatly missed by his family and friends. He is survived by his wife, Joan Blum, 3 children, Alicia Barbarino, Carl Blum Jr., and Lynn Marie Messett. I had the opportunity to meet Carl Blum a week before he passed away at a fundraiser for animals at his daughter's home, and a very warm, gracious man. And there was a trip that was being auctioned off on a live auction, a trip to Hawaii. and sadly he won't be able to enjoy that trip to Hawaii. That he passed away a week after that he was the award winner of that trip. May Carl Blum rest in peace.
Thank you, Mr. Zine. Ms. Gruhl.
Thank you, Mr. President. With great sadness, I would like us to adjourn on behalf of Logan McMillan, who passed away on Friday, May 28, 2004. He was 6 months old when he perished in an automobile accident on Friday as the family was making their way to Arizona for the Memorial Day weekend. He was riding with his mother, Tanya McMillan, sibling Tatum, and grandfather. Unfortunately, there was a collision and their car overturned. Tanya McMillan actually removed everyone's unconscious bodies to safety, and Logan did not survive that impact. Tanya McDonald is a third-grade teacher at Satakoy Elementary School, so we send our blessings and condolences to them and to all of their extended family at the elementary school.
Other tributes? Madam Clerk, please call the roll. Thank you all very much. This meeting is adjourned.
You are watching LA City View, Channel 35. Your city, your channel.
We now join our scheduled program in progress.